In April 2025, a brutal act of violence in the serene mountain meadows of Pahalgam, Kashmir, shattered the calm. 26 tourists were killed and dozens more injured in the deadliest attack of its kind in over a decade. It was a bloody opening chapter to what would become the most serious military crisis between India and Pakistan in a generation. As Indian and Pakistani forces gathered at the border, as diplomats were expelled and missiles readied, the world held its breath. It feared this was the spark that could finally ignite a global conflict. How did a long, simmering dispute once again push two nuclear-armed nations, home to over 1.5 billion people, to the absolute brink of all-out war? And in this new era of high-tech warfare, could this be the crisis that finally goes too far? The crisis began on April 22, 2025. In the picturesque Baisaran Valley near Pahalgam, a popular tourist spot, 5 militants targeted a group of visitors. 26 civilians were methodically gunned down in the assault. Responsibility for the massacre was initially claimed by the Resistance Front, or TRF, an offshoot of the Pakistan-based militant group Lashkar-e-Taiba. However, TRF later retracted its claim, leaving a cloud of deadly ambiguity. India's reaction was immediate and severe. Pointing the finger directly at Islamabad for supporting the militants, New Delhi unleashed a torrent of diplomatic and economic punishments. It expelled senior Pakistani diplomats, recalled its own staff, and shut down border crossings. In a move that sent shockwaves through the region, India announced it was suspending the 65-year-old Indus Waters Treaty, a cornerstone of regional stability governing the sharing of river water. Simultaneously, a massive crackdown was launched within Indian-administered Kashmir, with over 1,500 people arrested on suspicion of militant links. Pakistan fiercely denied any involvement, suggesting the attack could have been a false flag operation to justify Indian aggression. It responded in kind, imposing trade restrictions, closing its airspace to Indian flights, and hitting pause on long-standing diplomatic agreements. Along the heavily militarized line of control, the de facto border that snakes through Kashmir, the situation deteriorated rapidly. Cross-border firing became a daily reality. Then, on May 7th, the crisis blew past a diplomatic firestorm and became a direct military confrontation. India launched Operation Sindoor, a series of pre-dawn missile and drone strikes. India stated it was a precision campaign targeting 9 militant infrastructure sites inside Pakistan-administered Kashmir and, even deeper, in Pakistan's Punjab province, while avoiding military and civilian facilities. Pakistan's account was starkly different. It claimed the Indian strikes had hit civilian areas, including mosques, resulting in civilian deaths. Retaliation was swift. The Pakistani military launched its own blitz of mortar shelling into the Jammu region and kicked off its own named military campaign. Operation Bunyan Marsus. The name, meaning a solid structure, was reportedly drawn from a Quranic verse inscribed on a mosque damaged in the Indian strikes. For 4 terrifying days, the two nuclear powers exchanged fire, using drones, missiles, and artillery in the most intense fighting seen since their last major war in 1971. Finally, on May 10th, after frantic back-channel diplomacy reportedly led by the United States, a fragile ceasefire was announced. But the tension remains, a low hum of animosity and the ever-present risk of another bigger explosion. So, how did we get here? To understand how this remote, mountainous region could once again bring two nuclear powers to the edge of the abyss, we need to go back. We need to go back to the very beginning, to the violent birth of these two nations and the original sin that has poisoned their relationship for over 75 years. The story of the Kashmir conflict kicks off in 1947 with the end of British rule in India. The British Empire, in a hasty retreat, decided to partition the subcontinent into 2 independent nations, a Hindu-majority but secular India and a Muslim-majority Pakistan. The hundreds of semi-autonomous princely states that dotted the map were given a choice. Join India, join Pakistan, or, in theory, stay independent. For most, the choice was simple, based on geography and population. But Jammu and Kashmir was different. It was a Muslim majority state ruled by a Hindu Maharaja, Hari Singh. It also shared a border with both new nations. The Maharaja, caught between two powerful new countries, tried to stall, hoping to carve out an independent future for his kingdom. That dream was shattered in October 1947. Pashtun tribal militias, backed by the new Pakistani state, invaded Kashmir, trying to claim it for Pakistan. Facing the collapse of his state, Maharaja Hari Singh made a fateful choice. He asked India for military help and signed the Instrument of Accession, formally making his territory part of India. This sparked the First India-Pakistan War. After more than a year of brutal fighting, the United Nations brokered a ceasefire in 1949. That ceasefire line, which marked where each army stood at the war's end, temporarily divided Kashmir. With some tweaks after the 1971 war, that temporary line became what we now know as the Line of Control, or LOC. And here's the thing about the LOC. It's not an internationally recognized border. It's a military control line, a scar left by war, that both nations agreed to respect without giving up their ultimate claims. Both India and Pakistan still claim the entirety of Kashmir as their own. This fundamental unresolved dispute has fueled two more major wars in 1965 and 1999, and a decades-long, bloody insurgency in Indian-administered Kashmir that has claimed tens of thousands of lives. For over 75 years, the question of Kashmir has been the central, open wound in South Asia. But this long and bloody history got a terrifying upgrade in 1998. That year, the subcontinent went nuclear. The stakes in Kashmir were raised exponentially. So what makes the present situation different from past flare-ups? The answer is one word: nuclear. In May 1998, India conducted a series of nuclear tests. Pakistan followed suit just weeks later. Suddenly, the Kashmir dispute wasn't just a regional conflict, it was a potential nuclear flashpoint. Today, both countries are estimated to possess around 170 to 180 nuclear warheads each. This new reality has created a grim, predictable crisis pattern. Seen after the Kargil intrusion in 1999, the Indian Parliament attack in 2001, the Mumbai attacks of 2008, and the Pulwama Balakot crisis in 2019. The pattern usually goes like this. A terrorist attack happens on Indian soil, which India blames on Pakistan-based groups. India then weighs a military response, trying to punish Pakistan without starting a full-scale war. Pakistan denies everything and issues counter-threats. Finally, intense international diplomacy, usually led by the US, steps in to pull both sides back from the brink. But what makes this uniquely perilous is the difference in their nuclear doctrines. India officially has a no-first-use policy, meaning it is pledged to only use nuclear weapons if it's hit with a nuclear attack first. Pakistan, on the other hand, has deliberately kept things ambiguous. Knowing it can't win a conventional war against India's much larger military, Pakistan reserves the right to use nuclear weapons first. This first-use policy is designed to deter even a large-scale conventional Indian attack, with officials stating they would use them if the country's very survival were at stake. This creates a terrifyingly low threshold for nuclear use. A miscalculation, a misread of troop movements, or an escalation that spirals out of control could lead one side to think its red lines have been crossed. And the consequences would be global. Scientists have modeled what even a limited nuclear exchange between India and Pakistan would look like. The results are apocalyptic. Soot and smoke from incinerated cities would be blasted into the upper atmosphere, blocking sunlight and causing a catastrophic drop in global temperatures. A nuclear winter. This could trigger worldwide crop failures, leading to a global famine that could potentially put billions of lives at risk across the planet. This is the so what. This is why a fight in a remote Himalayan valley should matter to every single person on Earth. The 2025 crisis followed this chilling pattern, but with dangerous new twists. It showed that the old rules of the game might be breaking down and that both sides are willing to climb higher up the escalation ladder than ever before. So, what if next time the ladder runs out of rungs? The May 2025 crisis was a sobering glimpse into the future of warfare in South Asia. It wasn't just a repeat of past standoffs, it introduced new destabilizing elements that have fundamentally altered the risk calculus. For the first time in their long history of conflict, this was a drone war. Both India and Pakistan deployed advanced drones and loitering munitions, so-called suicide drones mute in their strikes, a major technological escalation. This was paired with extensive cyber operations, with both sides targeting the other's digital infrastructure. Perhaps the most alarming development was India's decision to suspend the Indus Waters Treaty. For over 6 decades, this treaty had survived wars and crises, a rare pillar of cooperation ensuring that the critical issue of water didn't become a cause for war. By putting it on the table, India has weaponized a shared resource, opening a dangerous new front. In a region facing growing water scarcity, the idea of water itself becoming a reason for war is no longer just theoretical. The 2025 crisis also showed a deeply worrying trend: the normalization of direct but supposedly limited military action under the nuclear umbrella. Both sides now seem to believe they can launch missile and drone strikes deep into enemy territory and still control the outcome, pulling back before things get out of hand. This is a deadly gamble. The idea of a limited war between two nuclear-armed rivals who deeply mistrust each other is a dangerous illusion. The risk of miscalculation is enormous. This was underscored by unconfirmed but deeply concerning reports that some of the strikes in May 2025 landed near sensitive military sites, a stark reminder of how quickly a limited strike could be misinterpreted as something far more sinister, potentially triggering a catastrophic response. As the dust settles from the May 2025 crisis, the world is left looking at a precarious future. The paths forward for Kashmir and the region seem to split into 3 starkly different scenarios. The first and most terrifying is the path to all-out war. In this scenario, a future terrorist attack, maybe even worse than Pahalgam, prompts an unprecedentedly harsh Indian military response. This response crosses one of Pakistan's vaguely defined red lines. Whether it's a major loss of territory or a massive attack on its military, feeling its existence is threatened, Pakistan launches a low-yield tactical nuclear weapon to stop advancing Indian troops. Following its own doctrine, India responds with overwhelming nuclear retaliation against Pakistani cities. The nuclear winter that follows could plunge the entire planet into darkness and famine. A second, and perhaps more probable scenario is just more of the same: a frozen conflict. This is the status quo, but it's getting more and more unstable. It's a perpetual cycle of tension, broken up by periodic crises like the one in 2025. Each crisis is sparked by an attack, followed by brinkmanship, limited military strikes, and frantic international mediation that narrowly prevents disaster. Life along the line of control remains miserable, and the people of Kashmir stay caught in the crossfire. This path avoids immediate catastrophe but solves nothing, ensuring the risk of a full-scale war is a constant looming shadow. The third path is the long, hard road to peace. The 2025 crisis once again showed how crucial outside powers like the United States and China are in brokering ceasefires. But it also revealed the limits of their influence. International mediation can put a temporary lid on the boiling pot, but it can't turn off the heat. Real, lasting de-escalation can only come from within the region. It would take sustained, meaningful dialogue between India and Pakistan, a genuine effort to address the grievances of the Kashmiri people, and the political will to finally resolve the core territorial dispute that has haunted them for generations. Historically, India has rejected third-party mediation on the core issue, while Pakistan has often welcomed it. Bridging that fundamental gap is the ultimate challenge. The Kashmir conflict remains one of the world's most stubborn and dangerous disputes. It's a toxic brew of deep-seated historical animosity, fiery nationalism, and the unresolved status of a territory that both nations see as essential to their very identity. Layered on top of this is the terrifying reality of two growing nuclear arsenals, creating a standoff where a single mistake could have consequences for all of humanity. The events of 2025 have thrown new volatile ingredients into this mix. The spread of high-tech drones, the weaponization of vital resources like water, and a growing comfort with fighting limited wars on the nuclear brink. The central question remains unanswered and is more urgent than ever. Could Kashmir trigger the next big conflict? The honest answer is that it absolutely could. The path away from that catastrophic outcome is narrow and full of peril, requiring a level of political courage and statesmanship that has been tragically missing for decades. The future of South Asia, and perhaps the world, hangs in the balance. If you want to understand more about the complex forces shaping our world, make sure to subscribe and click the bell icon so you don't miss our next analysis. What do you think is the most likely future for Kashmir? And what role should the international community play? Let us know in the comments below. Thanks for watching.